UFC wasn't the only thing to happen this past weekend. We will have a video about that coming out tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that one and subscribe if you haven't already. But in this one, we're going to be talking a little bit about the PFL. There's been a lot of stuff that's been going on with the PFL since the Ngannou signing, and now that we had this news with Shane Burgos making the playoffs because of that fighter suspension, I feel like it's a good time to kind of like regroup and talk again about the PFL. So first off, before we get into like some of the actual like troubles that they've had lately, I just want to shout out Savadou C for one of the craziest knockouts that I've seen this year. Spinning heel kick, elite. I mean, we saw it through the ref's glasses. They have that with the PFL. They have a bunch of things. They got the ref's glasses. They got the smart cage. So we're the PFL. I mean, I'm joking a little bit, but the PFL is pretty fun. They have a lot of good fighters. But one of the things that we're going to talk about, and I guess I'll start the conversation off with this, is that a lot of those elite fighters tested positive for PEDs in like a wave, really, for the PFL. And fresh after the Ngannou signing with all this publicity, and also with Jake Paul coming into the fold too there, I think that them having a lot of bad publicity isn't really good for anybody. I mean, you want to, now that you have all these extra eyes on you, you'd hope that things would get a lot better. But it seems like things have just been kind of getting a little bit worse as it kind of starts out here. Just with the PED suspensions, like I said. And then now I guess we can kind of get into this. The PFL, I'm kind of like choosing how I want to phrase this, because they didn't particularly alter the playoff format, but they did as close to what they could do to get that done. So in PFL contracts, there's like an obligation. I want to read this like verbatim so I don't butcher it. The PFL, their official statement on the fight between Nathan Schultz and Rush Manfio, said last night Nathan Schultz and Rush Manfio did not meet the standards which all PFL fighters agree to uphold in competition, the PFL stated. All fighters in their PFL fight agreements agree to use their best efforts, skill, and ability as a professional athlete to compete and defeat any opponent. It was clear that Nathan and Roush did not meet that contractual standard in yesterday's bout. So the reason why that matters is because that happening basically got Shane Burgos a spot in the playoffs. And you're probably wondering, why does that matter? Shane Burgos is awesome. We remember him in the UFC. That's true. He's awesome. And I do want to stress that before we start this little thing here, this isn't in any way really hating on Shane Burgos. I'm happy to see him in the playoffs. He's fighting Clay Collard in the first round. That's going to be a war. So I can't wait to see that. But from the PFL side, Shane Burgos lost his first fight in the promotion and then won his second versus like a guy who, I'm not going to lie, he was below Burgos' level. And now, since Burgos wouldn't have been in the playoffs if it wasn't for this suspension, you kind of have to wonder, did they just do this thing that we've never seen in fighting because they want their promotional darling to be in the playoffs? Can't really prove that, but that's kind of how it looks from the outside looking in. But what were your thoughts on this when I initially told you about it?
The first thing that came in question was like it's kind of like one of these things where, how can you, like, clearly, like, you could put on a fight and watch it and then make, form your own scorecard and thoughts of the fight as a whole. But, and so, in that case, it's like, I don't, that, what you just read about what's in the contract and all, just like, it doesn't seem like all that much of like a plausible thing to uphold a fighter to.
And how do you quantify that? Like, how do you know someone's intent when they're in there? And like, I should say this, Manfio and Schultz, they're close friends, and that's kind of like the reason behind why people believe that they might not have been going full clip at each other, and it was like a lackluster fight. But I don't know, in my opinion, it's just a crazy look, because like, imagine, not even in the UFC. Like, I said this to somebody today. Imagine this in like any of the big pro sports, like the NFL, NBA, MLB. Like, imagine, let's say this, like the Yankees in baseball, go Yanks, big market team, right? let's say that they're a game out of the wild card and the Angels are ahead of them, but in the final game of the season, the Yankees beat a team 15-2, and then the Angels win a game 1-0, and the MLB just comes out like, the Angels. I mean, they did have a better record and they deserve to be in, but in this final game of the season, they didn't really give a lot of effort. So because of that, we're gonna put the Yankees in. Like, that's insane. And then even when you put it into like the fighting perspective, it's just the way I see it from the outside. It's like, all right, well, we paid Shane Burgos a lot of money to come over here, and we need to think of something to get him into the playoffs. And boring fight in his weight class. Suspend them. That's a good idea. I'm not accusing them of anything, man, but like, come on. It just doesn't look good. It sounds bad because I really don't want to like act like I'm shitting on Shane Burgos because I love watching him fight. But from the PFL side, man, come on.
No,
they're just like,
it's
we'll
nothing to do
them.
with Shane Burgos. It's hey, these two fighters right here just got a huge opportunity taken away from them.
It's just so funny. Like, dude, imagine like if Dana just came out after like Ngannou versus Lewis or like any like Rose versus Esparza, any of the boring fights you could think of in your head, and was just we're actually gonna suspend them both for 6 months. Like, what? That's so funny. Because like I would imagine that set of words is in every MMA promotion's contracts in some way, like in terms of effort. Because I think they're trying to prevent people from like rigging a fight by not taking it like seriously and going full clip. I think that's the reason behind the language in the contract. But I think in this instance, the PFL might have just used it to, aid Shane Burgos a little bit. But I don't know, man. I've never seen this happen in MMA. Have you?
Yeah.
I'm dumbfounded.
No, it really is. It really is something that's like. It's like, because we could express as much as we want about it, and it's just like how just like out of left field it is. But
dude, when I saw that on MMA Fighting, I had to read it like 3 times to like understand what happened.
Yeah,
like, what?
but it's like it's just that it's done and that's it. It's not like there's like some like hearing or something from either one of the guys or the PFL higher ups to talk about. It's just this is the decision, this is who's replacing them, and then you just
how
move
convenient
on.
is it that the replacement is like your prize pretty much in that weight class?
I don't. So you mentioned that the two fighters here were friends. They're close friends and training partners.
Exactly what they are, because I do want to. All right, yeah, they're close friends and training partners at American Top Team. They've lived with each other in the past, and they're also the godfathers of each other's children. So they're like really close. So if the PFL, right, was they put this match, this fight gets put together. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, this fight gets put together, and like they understand, like, obviously these are two close friends. Obviously, there's 2 ways they could have been. There's 2 ways the thought process could have went about this. Either one, obviously you have like real emotion going into this fight, like 2 guys that are just gonna lay it out all out there. All just the ultimate respect at the end of the day. They're gonna leave it all out there no matter what, and at the end, the one guy's gonna get their hand raised and there's gonna be, the utmost mutual respect afterwards, and then. It's gonna it's everything, it's gonna be a nice wholesome moment and everything. Or they were like, I'm actually gonna just pose this question instead to like just front what the other part of this. It's like putting these brackets together and stuff. My question is like, how do they get put in the same bracket for one?
I mean, I guess the weight class is one thing. Like, if they're in the same weight class, there's nothing really they could do. But I think where I thought you were going to go with this, and you could tell me, like, if this was in your mind, but it's just, you book two... that these guys train together. Like, they either knew that, or they didn't know it, and that's on them. Like, either way, it's on them.
I didn't even bother, like, I didn't even bother with, maybe they didn't know, because it's like, well,
either
you
way.
Didn't know, exactly. If you didn't know, then it's like, all right, then you don't know. your
that just
roster.
looks
And that's
terrible.
exactly.
Because then you don't even know who you're putting in matchups versus each other. Like if you don't know that they're training partners, you know nothing about the guy. Like, so it's either incompetence or like they just made. I mean, no, either way, I think it's incompetence because I just don't see any scenario where two guys, the godfathers of each other's children, that's like real tight.
Yeah.
That's not just buddies who hang out in training. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, but you know, to reference the fight in itself and obviously the aftermath. It's like, and then once again, like if they didn't know, then that's honestly like a whole nother thing. But
They
you
were
know,
also
obviously,
accusing them though of not giving their all in the fight. Like, what if it was just like
exactly. Let's
mean,
say
you
they
can't
did
prove
know.
it. Like-
Exactly. They say they did know all this, and then okay, what they were expecting, like, oh yeah, you know, two great friends, like with one goal in mind. At the end of the day, they're both hungry for the same thing. You know, they got to cross paths here, and it's like there's going to be a lot of emotion out there, but at the end, obviously, we're hoping for some great mutual respect. One guy has his head, both guys have their heads still up high, and then we can move forward onward with everything, and then their two careers respectively. But instead, it's like, okay, that's the fight you got, That's the fight you got. It happens. That, it's unfortunate, especially for this brand new company here. That's obviously, as much as they're trying to gain that legitimacy right out the gate and that popularity and all that, is as much as it's getting taken away from them by the day, it feels like too, with guys getting, caught for PEDs and then, deliberately just taking two guys out of the playoffs.
I'd love to see what they have to say about it. Like
exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like you don't even really get to exactly. You have to go out of your way to go find that. Honestly, most likely, if you want to hear from it, it's just, hey, here's the statement, and that's it. It doesn't matter how much of a fan you probably were of either of these two guys, or any betting prediction you might have put on one of these guys to freaking win the entire thing. It's just like, oh, sorry, like that they're both, that's it, they're both done. That's like, I don't know. It's just
so bizarre.
Yeah, it's like that's the fight you got. All right, it's a whole playoff bracket you got. The guy moves on to the next round. You just keep going. Why do you have to pretty much alter and the entire one side of this entire thing, and just like,
I mean, this never happened.
And then us as fans are just like, expected to just be like, just like scoff at it and just be like, oh, hey, Shea Burgos is fighting now. Cool, awesome, can't wait for the next round.
I'll say this: people won't forget about it though.
Yeah,
when he fights Clay Collard and it's a war, dude. Like, we're not gonna be talking about this. I know that. I mean, maybe a little bit, but that fight is gonna be nuts. Like Clay Collard, he's UFC caliber in my opinion.
Exactly,
so,
and that's why I wanted to just mention, just like this. Shea Burgos is just the guy that happens to be replacing. Like, it's nothing. There's no slight to him. Like,
I mean, good for him.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. We've already expressed, like, we're all big Shea Burgos fans here, but he's just the guy that happened to be, put, as the guy that, hey, we're gonna take you. You're gonna be replacing these two guys. Like, I wonder what the PFL told him directly.
I mean, to be fair, I'm sure. I don't know if part of Shane Burgos feels bad for them, but on the other hand, I'm sure the selfish part doesn't really give.
Oh yeah, but in terms of explanation.
Oh, like what they told. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was like, okay, sounds good to me.
Like,
an
all
extra
right,
chance
so
at a
Shade,
mill. Why not?
Yeah, it looks like both guys aren't healthy enough to keep going, so they're out.
They can't. Right? It's gonna come out, but. Yeah, I just don't like it because it sets a bad precedent. Yeah. That's my thing. Because then how does this affect the future, right? What if it's down the line somewhere, I'll bring someone up who's big in their promotion, OAM from Canada, at welterweight. His fights, they're pretty lackluster. Are we going to suspend him? He was like, no. It's just... I don't know. I don't like the precedent that it sends because you're not holding up to that. Like, I just think that this was a situational thing here.
Exactly. So for me, it's like someone that I think of somebody that obviously is looking to, that's looking to either start a whole new career with PFL or just to continue further their career with the PFL. How when you got we have all of this happening, and obviously now you've got the standard obviously that you have to meet one way or another.
Now
It's
you know
like
it's enforced.
exactly
So
how you know
or is
besides
it?
that initial contract that the PFL is going to give you, it's like how for how long can someone really like expect to stay around with PFL?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on what the goal is. I mean, there are people in there who want to win that $1 million. I mean, you win that championship, it's life changing money. But then, like you said, you're kind of sacrificing other things that the UFC doesn't really do with their
Exactly.
fighters. Like, you might get shit on by Dana for having a bad fight, but you're still gonna get your win money. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And not that these guys probably they probably
It's
did,
just
but
it's
the
just yeah,
suspension. I mean,
just
come
straight
on.
up from a professionalism standpoint. Like clearly PFL still like has ways to go. It looks like obviously where UFC is right now, but
Yeah,
right
and the
now
UFC
yeah,
started a
right now
while
it's
ago,
like
so
right now PFL kind of just feels like just like a revolving door of guys that are gonna come in and out and put on the fight that the fans want to see, and then
I mean, I hope
who
Francis
knows from
Ngannou can
there.
change that.
Yeah,
That's their big hope, and Jake
exactly.
Paul.
That's I was exactly, but at the same time, not everyone's Francis Ngannou or Jake Paul or obviously any huge, just huge combat sports star. So yeah, this is obviously not the light we were trying to talk about PFL in.
Especially after doing so much good, like with the Ngannou stuff. But since then, it just seems like we've had some trouble. And I do have faith that they're gonna like get back on the
Hmm.
horse because I think that they have a lot of good people in their promotion and they have a lot of smart people running it. But lately, it just seems like I don't know, man. This season for the PFL has not really been too flattering, at least in the past week. But I
Yeah,
don't know. We'll see what happens with the playoffs. Like I said, I'm sure once Shane Burgos and Clay Collard get in there and they put on a war for the fans, things will look a little better for the
yeah,
PFL. But right now, when you see that headline, and like a lot of people nowadays, they probably don't read the articles. So when you just see that they suspended 2 fighters for not giving like their all, pretty much, that doesn't look great, especially when you're putting in the guy who the promotion is rooting for in the
for
playoffs. So
yeah. Wow.
I don't know. Like I said,
I
no
bet.
hate on Shane Burgos, but we'll see what happens, and we'll be back. See y'all.